Good evening, fans of the NFC South. It's me, the freaking Puerto Rican, aka Joe Riolano. I'm here on tonight's edition of Southbound and Down with my esteemed panel. We're going to talk about this past weekend's results. I'm sure none of them have good things to say. I have great things to say because we had a bye. So I couldn't be happier how the weekend went for us. Um, but anyway, let's introduce this esteemed panel we have here. We'll start going from left to right on my screen. We'll start with you, Mr. Thomas. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everybody know how they can get at you.
Hey, my name is Gene, Super Heavyweight. I'll pop my name up here shortly on Twitter. You can find me at Super Heavyweight. Just look for actually, I got my picture up there now. I took down my little Buccaneers icon and actually put a picture up there, so you can see who I am. And I'm hoping and praying for a quarterback.
I like that. All right, we'll go on to you, Mr. Barber.
Well, this is me, Greg Barber. You can contact me at IntenseGB on Twitter, and I'm praying for a damn defense.
And certainly, last but not least, Mr. Scott. Gonna be a movie named Jurassic, but I'm gonna call it Jurassic Park.
Let's just say that you can find me on Twitter, Scott Karasik. I love all kinds of football, specifically Falcons mainly, but all kinds of football, and I am praying the Falcons not just get one edge rusher, but bring in two. And hopefully they bring in my boy Justin Houston. But I doubt that happens.
Well, anything's possible in today's NFL, and you never know. I've already introduced myself, Freaky Puerto Rican. You can reach me at Joe Riolano with CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We have a lot of good stuff going on to the site. We just went through a redesign, so please come visit us. Be a part of the open mic conversation. We have today's question was, is Steve Smith the greatest ever wide receiver under 6 foot? So please give your thoughts and opinions there on that. Well, guys, like I said, I don't have a whole lot to say tonight because it was a bye week for us. I think we moved up a half game by not playing this past week in the standings. So we appreciate that. We appreciate all y'all's help. But Gene, we'll start with you and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I believe, was leading for a bit of this game. Is that correct?
It was 10-0.
Yep.
And what Josh McCown showed the Chicago Bears is why they let him go. Basically, he basically in the second half of that game said, "Hey, remember me? Remember why you let me go? Here, let me give you a refresher if you don't remember." And that's pretty much what this guy did. He had a good game. Let's go. I want to reverse back to the Redskins game. I saw inconsistencies. I saw where he hesitated and held the ball, but because Washington's defense was that bad, he got away with a lot of stuff. And honestly, he is not a starting quarterback. He's been a career backup for a reason.
Right.
And I hope and pray that if the ownership and the administration doesn't see that we need to draft a quarterback, not bring a free agent in who will give us maybe 2 or 3 years, but draft a quarterback, somebody that is a decision maker, somebody that's mobile and can make plays with their legs and stretch plays and, give the defense fits, kind of like Josh Freeman did in 2010. And we just don't have that. I mean, I look at Carolina, they have Cam Newton. I look at the Falcons. The Falcons have Matt Ryan. And last but not least, the Saints have Drew Brees. And what do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have? Josh McCown. And how much fear does that strike into any of you guys when you say, "Oh, we got Josh McCown next week"? How much fear? Seriously, what do you guys think as sports people when you see, "Oh, we've got Josh McCown on our schedule next"? What is
I know for me,
I kind of tack up 3 interceptions. That's what I think.
For me, it's like, yes, Josh.
Yeah,
McCown.
I'm thinking either we should be getting a couple of interceptions,
Right.
or he gonna fumble, or Or at
Oh,
least he's gonna either lay down and get sacked.
right, he's gonna hold the ball too long. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my point. And that's my point. I'm not bashing my team. I'm just saying it is what it is. And what I've seen, I've been very open-minded about this. They gave Mike Glennon a chance to earn the starting position, and he failed at that. And so they benched him in favor of McCown, who they paid all this money for no reason to, and they bring him in, and he has not proven otherwise that he deserves to be the starter next season. Because right now, as it stands, that's kind of where we're looking, is at next season.
Yeah.
I would be very disappointed if we won out. Heaven forbid we won out and went to the playoffs. I'd still be disappointed because our fans deserve better. We deserve better than what you're seeing right now. The product that's on the field right now, we are missing some pieces. I get that, but your quarterback leads your team, and that's the catalyst to make things go on offense. Is a good quarterback.
Well, let me tell you this. This is some scary news. On last night's show, we were talking about it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2 games out, I believe, right, of being first place in the division. And if the season ended right now, they would get the number 1 pick. Is
Number
that
two.
right?
I think number 2 or number 3. I think it's number 2.
Number
Number
3.
Yeah, I got
Okay.
the spreadsheet. It's on my Twitter page.
Okay. So they get the number 3 pick, and if they win the division, based on an NFL rule that was put in, I think in 2010, they could pick no higher than 21st.
Right.
Right.
So you'd go from number 3 to 21 just by winning the division.
But let's
Right.
be honest about the Buccaneers, all right? I don't see any way that they win more than one more game on their schedule.
Hey, you got to go out and play them, man. That's what I'm saying. You got to go out and play them.
I agree you got to go out and play them. I'm just saying they're going into the tough part of the schedule. Cincy's not a joke.
No, they're
Going
not.
up
They're a
to
good
Detroit's
team.
not a joke. Going to Carolina is not an easy game.
Nope.
Going to Green Bay or hosting Green Bay on a warm field.
Oh,
That's
watch out.
New
Yeah.
Orleans is a tough game. I see 2 potentially winnable games, and that's just Carolina and New Orleans. And the only reason why I say those are potentially winnable is because anything can happen in division games.
Yeah.
But Cincy, Detroit, and Green Bay all match up perfectly to beat Tampa like the first Atlanta game.
I had this conversation last year when we were talking about the Detroit Lions, and you saw what happened with that game. So, I mean, anything is possible, any given Sunday. And, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying on paper, yeah, but you still got to go out and play. We weren't supposed to beat Pittsburgh. That was supposed to be, we
That's
were getting
very
blown
true.
out.
Very true.
And so, every Sunday, man, anything can happen.
That's very
Now,
true.
Washington, you were supposed to beat because they're just garbage.
They
I don't
are.
know.
They are terrible. They are flat out terrible. And it's amazing to me that they can spend so much money and still manage to be so bad.
It reminds me of the Dallas Cowboys a little bit and how their general manager, he can't get out of his own way,
Yeah.
Except the Cowboys are finally working because
Right.
the general manager said, you know what? Let's
Well,
just
it's
keep
not
that
playoff time yet.
Well, that's
Let's
true.
keep that in alignment. They're going to at least go to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the key.
I would think they'd make the playoffs at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, what do they do when they get there?
I mean,
Hard
you
call-
gotta
hard
get there
call with
first. You
anybody.
haven't been there in like a decade, so let's get them first.
I mean, right now you really can't say. I mean, maybe in the AFC you might say New England might be a pretty solid pick overall, but most of these teams right now, honestly, most of them you don't have any idea what the hell they're gonna do when they get to the playoffs if they get there. I mean, most of them you don't know if they're gonna be extremely good or they might fall apart the minute they get there. I mean, it's a crapshoot right now. It's nobody. I don't see anybody there that I can say is a lock to be Super Bowl champ. I mean, everybody can have an opinion on it and actually be pretty much right, almost, and give you a good reason why they would.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, look at what Denver did. Denver went out and just laid an egg. That nobody was expecting that.
Yeah.
But what you have to consider is that defensive coordinator. I'm starting to believe in this guy based on what he's done with St. Louis and putting those pieces together to where they work.
I want to tell you all this, and C3 followers, please, if you haven't, go check out Draft Tech. They just put out their first mock draft
Oh, they did. Okay.
today. Yeah, they just did today. I think
I
it's
need to
only
sign
three.
up for that. They're really good. They're really good.
Yeah, and I think it's only 3 rounds today. But go check it out. They have the Bucks picking up Winston in the first round.
They don't have the right order, but they do have the Bucks picking up Winston.
Right. I think they have the Bucks picking fourth on their draft board. And
No,
they,
and maybe they're thinking that they'll win another game or something.
maybe,
Maybe
but
that's probably not looking at it based on the
have,
data.
they
Yeah.
have the Titans ahead of the Bucks picking Mariota.
Really?
Right, and then the Bucks coming up and getting Winston.
I
Yeah.
think the Bucks would probably be more suited for Mariota just
I do
because
too.
Mariota
Me too. I agree.
the Lovie Smith personality,
Mhm.
and don't get that, oh, he's not competitive. If he wasn't competitive, that Oregon team would not be competitive.
No,
Right.
I agree.
Well,
No,
and I just want to step in. There are some other quarterbacks. The quarterback for Notre Dame. I've seen some other quarterbacks in the past few weeks.
Every
And-
Golson? Every
Yeah,
Golson? Yeah, no
and-
chance. I wouldn't pick that dude for nothing. I do
I don't
not.
I'm just saying. that
Not
there
this
are
year.
some other quarterbacks out there that are of I wouldn't want to reach for a quarterback. I understand Jameis Winston is one, and his off the field situation may come into question, and that's going to definitely play a part in whether he would come to Tampa or not.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I know. I'm looking at the Cam Newton process, how they interviewed him over and over, and the owner, Jerry Richardson, brought him in and had a deep, long, involved conversation with him, trying to get to know the person. And I'm sure it'd be the same sort of thing with the Buccaneers if they were to. And I don't think it's a reach on Winston, but if they were to invest in Winston, that they want to really have him go through, a really good vetting and making sure he's their man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
I mean, I don't want to, and I'm just kind of going back. I look at Aqib Talib and how we picked up Aqib Talib, and he had off the field issues, he had character issues, but they took a chance on that guy, and I mean, he gets busted for Adderall.
That was a different regime there.
Yeah, you're right. But I'm just saying, in our history, if you look at the Tampa Bay history, going back to '76. We have only had one franchise quarterback, that being Doug Williams.
Screwed him.
Yeah, and then you look at Vinny Testaverde did not get good until he left Tampa. Steve Young did not get good. He didn't get good until he left Tampa. And even I wouldn't say Trent Dilfer is a franchise quarterback because he was an interception waiting to happen. Yeah. But he was able to manage he was able to manage the game and get out of his own way when he finally got to the Ravens. So
I don't even know if he managed the game, to be honest. I mean, other than handing it to Jamal Lewis, and he had a good secondary and a hell of a defense.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, he would have never got that ring if it was counting on him.
No, not at all.
Doug Williams is a different story. Steve Young is a different story. Trent Dilfer is not that story.
No, absolutely not. You can't even put them in the same sentence.
Nope.
And then you look at what the Buccaneers have done since the Super Bowl. After Brad Johnson, we have had horrible quarterbacks, with the exception of Jeff Garcia, who was sort of good.
Josh Freeman had a good year or year and a half, 2 years.
2010. And then his last season, I think he threw for over 4,000 yards, but he was just too inconsistent. His decision-making was not the best, and he held onto the ball too long, more times than he needed to.
Yeah, and part of that was, if you think about it, a lot of it was subpar coaching. I mean, you had you had one head coach who wasn't ready to be a head coach. You had another one that had no damn business to be in an NFL stadium unless he was getting popcorn watching.
Exactly.
And that's simple as that.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
In the sense of Greg Schiano, and those guys, you basically took a quarterback who probably could have turned into something, and you basically, probably wrecked them a little bit in a sense. And it can happen. I think it's, a lot of it's coaching. A lot of it's coaching at first, especially when they're young.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you got to go all the way back to Kansas State. Ron Prince was a horrible coach there as well. So he's kind of been doomed, and he's gotten by on just pure talent. So yeah, I see your point. You make a valid point there.
All right. Well, I think you made a lot of good points, Shane, and I think you let us know exactly where the franchise is right now. They know the huge gaping hole in that organization is at quarterback, and that has to be addressed. So we know that first round pick, provided there's one on the board, is going to be a quarterback.
It has to be. I mean, all these other pieces. We have Joe McCoy re-signed. Levante David is next to be re-signed. Altron Werner, I think, was a solid pickup in the offseason. When he's healthy, he plays good. McDonald is starting to come into his own a little bit. So just filling in holes in certain places. Our defensive ends, as Scott mentioned earlier, I'm thinking the same thing as he is. On the defensive side, our ends, I would love to have two pass rushers that could get after the quarterback as well and get some of the pressure off of Gerald McCoy and McDonald, and just kind of help that front four to get pressure on the quarterback together.
Right. That would definitely. You've got the receivers. You've got the tight end potentially. So you do need some offensive line help.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. You got to look for that in the draft too.
Yeah.
So yeah, but for sure the Grand Canyon and the hole on that team is at the quarterback position.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, we're going to move on to Greg and the Monday night debacle that was. So please, Greg, I really have been waiting all weekend to hear what you. So I guess since Mondays to hear what your thoughts are on this, what happened.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a million different thoughts, but boy, I mean, the glaring ones that nobody can miss, even Stevie Wonder can't miss these. I mean, look, you got a team 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, and they still get the damn first down. Are you kidding me? That shouldn't even happen. That shouldn't happen. I mean, basically, we're pretty much back to 2012 defense. It's really that bad. That's what I keep thinking they're going to flip it around and they're going to tighten up, but they're not. They're not at this point. Right now, they're not showing. They showed some signs in a couple games, and then they fell right back into just being bad again.
Is it more missing the pass rush, or is it more some missing pieces out of the secondary?
It's a little of both. I mean, now, the secondary, and I said this from the beginning of the season. The second cornerback opposite of Keenan Lewis was the one thing that I was probably most scared of from the beginning of the season, because I was like, we had Corey White, who I knew basically really not an outside corner. He's a lot more comfortable in the slot, playing as far as a slot corner. He's definitely a lot more comfortable. Patrick Robinson is basically a slot corner himself, not really an outside corner. He had both have the tools to be decent corners, but they're not outside corners. I mean, but the problem is you got two guys who are slot corners who you got to try to play outside, and they get killed, they get burnt. And Keenan, basically right now you got Keenan Lewis who's still hurt.
He's playing with one leg, basically.
He's playing on one leg, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge part right there, because you really don't have that guy at least to shut down one side of the field,
right?
And maybe you can bring some help over to the other. You got to bring help over to him too, honestly. And they're not playing. I don't think they plan him every snap. So that tells you right there he's hurt. Because other than that, you're not going to have him sitting on the sideline hardly ever. So
I think I asked this question a couple weeks ago. Is that the personnel?
Oh, it's definitely personnel. I always knew it. Don't get me wrong, because the one thing I wanted to do is I wanted them to get some good, solid 3-4 linebackers. Especially outside line. I like Paris Harrison to a point, but Paris. I mean, he's not going to be that. He's not that big time pass rusher or that serious 3-4 linebacker that you need that can be a 3-down player. Lofton is probably your best linebacker of the bunch, and the truth is that he's not really a 3-4 linebacker. I mean, he suffers in coverage, but he's great against the run.
Yeah.
So but you can't pull him off the field either.
Yeah.
He's a solid interior pass rusher.
Huh?
Lofton's a solid interior pass rusher.
Yes, he
does
is.
a lot of gaps.
Yeah, but I'm saying as far as coverage, he can't cover people. He's not great at coverage. He gets burned a lot.
But if you're using him in coverage, you're screwing up because he's not a
I
coverage
agree.
linebacker by any means.
And I agree with you, but then sometimes they do drop him in coverage, and that's a mistake to do that. But they do drop him in coverage.
That's why Atlanta let him walk.
Gillette is not really a linebacker. He's really just a specialized pass rusher, in all honesty. And nothing wrong with that. The problem is that you still need another guy that can come over there at least for the first 2 downs and come in and play solidly at the linebacker position. And I want a couple of linebackers that can actually be decent in pass coverage. You know what I'm saying? Guys who can pass coverage. You kind of can do some of everything.
That's where my question is Greg. My question is, the last year you had Gillette and you had,
Cameron Jordan. Right.
Those 2 guys really got after the quarterback, and that made everything else easier on the defense.
Big time, yes.
But this year you're not getting that same pressure from those 2 guys. What's the problem?
Gillette is getting back there a little bit. He's not always sacking the guy, but he's getting close. Jordan is basically disappeared to me. I don't. I'm not seeing the fact that he's basically disappeared. Huh?
Jordan's been eating a lot of doubles and triple teams.
Oh, and he is. But I'm saying, but that should also open it up for Hicks or somebody. Somebody should be able to get in there if he's eating up those double teams, and they're not.
He is eating up those double teams.
Yeah, but shouldn't somebody else be able to come in there? Hicks or somebody should be able to be in there.
Well, that's why Gillette's looking as good as he is. But you can't have just Gillette, just Hicks, just one of these guys looking good. You need multiple guys looking.
Oh, I agree. No doubt. I totally agree.
So is this does any of this fall at the foot of Rob Ryan?
To a point, because sometimes some of it's play calling too. Because one thing I noticed with the Ravens and the Ravens game, he's done this with several games. But he was trying to, like, on 3rd and long, he was doing a lot of sometimes all-out rushes. Now you got a hobble cornerback, you got a couple other cornerbacks who get toasted too damn much, and you're trying to leave them on one-on-one coverage when they really shouldn't be left on one-on-one coverage. So to me, it was like, why? I don't know. I mean, it's damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Because he's trying to get to the quarterback.
Don't rush the passer, and then you're gonna leave those guys one-on-one, and they're gonna get burned. Or if you don't rush the pass, you don't get. I mean, if you don't rush the pass, and you drop back 8. He still got only. They really get no pass rush, and he still can burn them one way or another, and maybe find holes in the zone. I don't know. It just. I mean, but the problem is just that we're not. Some of the play calls, he didn't mix it up enough to me. I think if he mixed it up and kind of got Flacco guessing, he might have caught him here and there on a couple plays. But they left plays on the field. I mean, on offense, that first drive, and where they got right to the goal line and they didn't get in on the offense.
Mm-hmm.
That was. I mean, and I understood what Payton was trying to do on that one, and I felt like he should have just at that point he should have just kicked the field goal at first, and at least get something out of it. If anything, he should have called a better play. I mean, I in no way, shape, or form would have trusted that offensive line to open up a hole against the Ravens defense. That was just not gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're front 3.
Yeah, I mean that was just stubborn play calling right there. That was just stubborn play calling. Because Ingram tried 2 times before and couldn't get through.
Right.
So, I mean that was just stubborn play calling. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the play call. Worse than that was the one thing. The play call was terrible. I would have rather thrown the ball, at least given it to Graham. Because, I mean, I would have jump ball Graham on that one. You got a 6'7" tight end. I'm throwing that to him. I'm jump balling him all day long against anybody that got.
Right. He's gonna box out and go up for a rebound, basically.
And that's all he needs to do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if he does that, even if they double team him, somebody's open.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I mean, that's what I would have done. I would have spread
Right.
them out a little bit and went their way.
I
But
took him for my
anyway,
fantasy team based on that concept alone.
huh? Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like, you
Yeah.
just gotta box out and get a touchdown. It's that easy. Like,
Yeah, I know. I agree. I'm with you. I'm like, and you pay that dude double digits in millions of dollars. I don't give a damn what the hell the situation is. If I tell him to go do that, he gonna go do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you paid him. That's what he's paid to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right there. So I mean, that should have happened.
That's
so,
where he earns his money.
That's where he earns his money, exactly, right
Yeah.
there. And so that made no sense to me that they made their. So they basically come up for not on that one. So they left that touchdown on the field. David
There is.
missed a lollipop right in his chest. He left that one in the field. You know.
There is one more. There is another question that I want to ask, but before I do, I want to let everyone know this is the Southbound and Down podcast, your premier NFC South podcast. We have a panel that knows their team inside and out, and for the most part, they'll tell it like it is. I'm a homer. I try to sugarcoat things. I am not ashamed to admit that. I am totally a homer. But if for all your NFC South news, make sure you tune in to the Southbound and Down podcast. Greg, I guess what I wanted to ask you was Steve Smith
Mm-hmm.
had a pretty good game. I wouldn't say a great game, but a pretty good game against you. And from what I remember hearing, his best games or he's had the most success against the Saints as opposed to any other team.
mm-hmm.
How
I
does
didn't know that.
how does that make you feel about Steve Smith?
Me, don't get me wrong. For the most part, I never hated Steve Smith. In a sense, of don't get me wrong. I admire him as a player, but I also know too that damn well that he's one of those type of guys. Like I told you, like that whole situation with the Kenny Vaccaro fight. I'm sorry. If Steve Smith was gonna come punch me or hit at me, we fighting. I already know I can't back down from that fight. I got that what I got to do. I got to do that with penalty or not. We got to do that, especially against him. You can't walk away from Steve Smith. You just don't do that. Him, you got to go at. I'm sorry. That's my feeling on that. But I mean, the number two, I felt like the refs should have called that penalty against both guys. that was an offset penalty to me. You know what I mean? Because Smith was just as complicit in that fight as Vaccaro. It wasn't,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Frankly, I think Smith started it.
He did. He did.
That's what it looked like to me.
He did start it. But still, at the same time, that's why I'm trying to figure out how in the hell Vaccaro gets the penalty. You know what I mean? Really? So, so you think that you call, if Steve Smith so much looks to glare at somebody wrong, the refs would have called a penalty on the guy because of his reputation alone.
Right.
You know what I mean? That dude, he's got a reputation long as my arm on stuff he done to his own teammates, not just
To other players. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Right.
But don't get me wrong, I don't hate the guy. He's a hell of a receiver. He can play. And yeah, he's had his best games. But I don't necessarily. I'm not scared of him. The problem you run into is that we just really never ever had a secondary. We never really had the guys to shut him down. We've had some decent defensive backs, but we really haven't had it ain't like we had Deion Sanders or somebody back there who can shut him down. That's a different story. If he could beat Deion Sanders, if he could beat Darrell Reeves or somebody like that, and he was on my team, Darrell Reeves was on my team, then I might be a little fearful of him. But compared to what we have and what he's beating, what do you do?
Right. There's not much you can do.
No, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So then that's kind of my point on it. Don't get me wrong. I understand. This year we're a terrible team. We suck. It's just simple as that. We do. But at the same time, we're still in this race. And for that point, I'm thankful for that we're at least still in this damn race, and that it's even worth watching at this time. Other than that, I'd be looking at draft picks.
Right. I mean, it's a race to the best out of five or the first one to five.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Hey! I think it's the first one to 6. All right.
Yeah. See, I'm thinking 6. I'm thinking around 6 or 7. I'm looking at 6 or 7 there because I mean, we got 5 more games left, and I mean, like we're going to Pittsburgh. I'm not. I mean, I knew the Ravens game was going to be a hard one. I wouldn't. I still was going to go root for my team. Pittsburgh, going to Pittsburgh with the weather.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. That's why I don't understand when people are like, yeah, the Saints have the easiest schedule, and Carolina's got the next, and then Tampa, and then...
They do not.
Because I look at it and I go, Atlanta's playing 4 of their last 5 in domes, 3 of the last 5 at home.
Mm-hmm.
The only real tough game that they've got, in terms of weather and location, is at Green Bay.
Yep.
The only real tough matchup issue that they have is at Green Bay, because they do match up decently well with Arizona,
mm-hmm.
despite Arizona being the best team in the league right now. They still match up decently well with them.
Yeah, but see but the fact that you got that prolonged, you got a prolonged experiment basically with Juice fans that you're stuck with them. You know what I'm saying? Because not that might soon fall apart and they may fall by the wayside a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Unless the defense really comes through big time for them and kind of saves Stan from himself. Stan's different. I mean, he's
Exactly.
decent, but he's decent. But don't get me wrong. I don't look at him. But I don't look at him as some guy that you're gonna be scared of as a quarterback. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I look at him like I look at Josh McCown.
Well,
That's basically it. Right. You're right.
I mean, honestly, tell me, did you look at Carson Palmer? Does he terrify you?
No, he doesn't. But he's definitely a lot better
He
than
doesn't terrify me, but Carson Palmer has been showing why he was a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't know, Palmer's kind of like that Jay Cutler. He kind of like a Jay Cutler, like a Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton in a sense where he could be good, he could be bad. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. He could be really, really good. Where you trying to figure out like where the hell this dude been all of our life. And the other time you're trying to figure out like did they put the trash man in his uniform? Because that dude right there is playing like crap at this point. So you don't know which Carson Palmer should up.
I've been kind of following.
As I was kind of alluding to, New Orleans has 2 games in cold weather.
Yes.
At Pittsburgh, at Chicago. Those aren't easy games to play.
Not at all.
No matter how those teams are during the year. Carolina, in terms of like location, yeah, they got Minnesota, New Orleans, Atlanta. They go to 3 different, or they go to Minnesota, which is actually outdoor this year. So they got 1 snow game, but then they got basically 2 indoor games and 2 home games. So unless it rains in Carolina, it's that freezing, nasty.
Yeah.
Who knows what I'm talking about? That freezing, nasty rain that you get sometimes around Charlotte.
Yeah.
Unless it's that, they're probably fine there. And then Tampa, I mean, Dome, Carolina, and then 3 home games.
Yep.
And Tampa's never had bad weather. Bad weather for Tampa's 50 degrees, and we kind of have to put on.
No, we were 38 last week, dude.
No,
we were a very cold 38 last week. I mean, freezing cold 38.
We have to put on our windbreaker because it's kind of windy out.
No, we had to go a little warmer than that, pal.
It gets cold in Tampa.
Don't be underselling when it gets cold here.
Okay, sorry, it gets to 30. Like twice a year. It gets cold in Tampa.
You were going to say something.
That don't happen often. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I plan to be at that Saints Tampa game is the plan, so I should be there. And I'm like, I already know it's going to be December. It ain't going to be that chilly or cold.
Right.
And if it is, I don't care.
I mean, how many Christmases have you gotten to wear shorts for Christmas there in Tampa?
Quite a few if I wanted to.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice looking at a dressed up palm tree.
Yeah.
I've done it here in Charleston. I've worn shorts to my in-laws for the Christmas party. So I know in Tampa you've done it
Yeah.
more than that. What were you
Oh,
going to say,
absolutely.
Gene? You were trying to break in there and say something.
Oh no, just basically I was agreeing with everybody. I think that with the weather, especially in Tampa, it's not really that bad. I
No,
mean,
it's not.
I don't it just every so often you do get that 30 degrees and everybody's pretty much freezes up. And I can remember those when I
Don't,
moved, because I moved from Tampa to Arizona where I'm at right now, so it wasn't
don't.
that much of a transition for me.
Yeah. Now the one thing you do have to, and they did happen. This happened last year. Remember, they had the really bad thunderstorm
Yes.
that delayed the game last year. Because I was
Hmm.
there, I happened to be there at that game and everything, and it was pouring really really bad. And that game it was started, and then they stopped it and brought all the players inside, and some of us were just sitting out there just waiting for the game to start again.
Yeah.
Well, first we were, we tried to get up under in the hall in the lobbies there, but
Mm,
too many people. It was getting too
yeah.
bad there, so it was like, oh screw it, go to our seats.
Greg, I'm gonna ask you one final thing about this
Yeah.
game, and it's not specific to the game as much
Okay.
as it is specific to the season thus far.
Okay. All right.
Um, Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that every week he's making mistakes.
Yes.
Now, whether it be a pick or a misread or whatever, this
Mm-hmm.
seems very much unlikely because he's known for being a good decision maker, being
Yes.
highly accurate with the football,
Yes.
and not really being one to turn it over.
Right.
But this year, that doesn't. It's not. I mean, it's not like he's thrown 15 interceptions or anything like that. But
Well, he's close. He's close. He's at 11 now.
well, there you go. That's a very high
He's at
number for
11
him.
right now. Yeah, he's at 11. I
That's
mean,
a, I want to know what you think of, what is the problem?
well, I mean, I know I said I alluded to it like earlier this couple weeks ago, and even like I think Steve Young kind of said the same thing. I think even John Gruden said that Breeze was trying to do too much. Because a lot part of it is, I mean, we got an offensive line there that we got a couple players that probably it's about time to start replacing them, or at least trying to get hire people. I mean, like draft people to get ready to take their spot in at least another year or so. So we kind of need to re-strengthen that line for him. A lot of people say about the Sproles being missed, and I mean, probably, yeah, probably that's part of it. And then you lose Cooks, so you still don't have that. You still don't have that speed at good point. I think Morgan is
Uh,
the guy that you can try, but I mean, other part too is I think really with him, I think part of it is he is trying too hard. And and I think he's trying to take it all on his shoulders, and I think that's part of it. But I mean, I don't think it's as much diminishing skills or
I'm
anything like that because if you really think about it, his completion percentage and stuff like that is pretty much right where it usually is. You know what I mean? But yeah, he'll make that one bad throw. I mean, the interception he made
I'm
against Baltimore, he got hit.
yeah.
He got hit on
Um,
that one a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if I can step in for a second,
Yeah,
I
sure.
100% agree with you. What I see is him missing weapons.
Yeah.
In the past, he's had other weapons that
Yeah.
he's comfortable with,
Yep.
and he's had a stronger running game in the past as well. And injuries has really hurt that team, and the offensive line is showing signs of chinks in the armor.
Well, a
So
lot
he,
of teams,
so
but they've been
he's
doing that for about 3 years now. They've been
yeah.
doing that for 3 years.
Well, you don't see it as much. And this season, I've seen it more pronounced with Drew Brees trying to put the ball in this little area and
Yeah.
trying to make that play.
Yeah.
Whereas other times he would have handed the ball off to his running back or he dumped it off to the tight end. But the tight end's being double covered because the weapons that he has on the outside are not, they're not a threat. So
Yeah.
Drew Brees is doing a whole lot more, trying to make plays, make something out of nothing, and where he doesn't have the weapons that he's had in the past.
Yeah, I mean, like myself. I mean, it's funny that they put Joe Morgan out there finally. I preached early this year that if Breeze was going to try to go downfield, Joe Morgan or Brandon Cooks were the two guys that he should be going to, not Robert Meacham.
Right.
And what they made two. I mean, Morgan makes two huge plays And I think that was all he was in for the game was like 2 plays.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, a 67-yard end around, and then he had like a 62-yard reception down the field that he had, and both of them he almost scored on. And I don't understand why they did not have him out there more. You know,
Is there a problem at practice? I mean, is he having issues with the coaches or?
No, not that I've heard. No, I mean, basically saying he's having a hard time cracking the lineup because you already got all the other veterans. But Colston is pretty much long in the tooth. He flashes in and out.
That's what I wanted to. That's what I was going to ask you, Greg. If this is his last year.
I think this is Meacham. Meacham shouldn't have even made the team.
Right, I agree with that.
If it were me, I think if anybody told you the 2 guys I thought that should have been cut this year that they kept were Patrick Robinson, the cornerback, and Robert Meacham. I thought those were the 2 guys who were going to be gone this year. I expected those 2 to be gone. They did not. They kept them, and I think that was a bad move on their part. You know, at that point. So, but you know, it is what it is. That's what you got, and that's what you're gonna have to go to battle with. So, but for the most part, you know, I mean, I thought they should be going more to Morgan. They finally bring Toon out there, and he made some plays here and there. You know, I think they need to bring some of the younger receivers out there because they got some guys out there who can create some separation, but they're not putting them out there. Because he's relying too much on Cooks, and I mean with Stills right now, I think. Still trying to come. He was injured during training camp, and he's just not right this year. He's not nearly as well playing nearly as well as he played last year. To me, you know, I mean, they got playmakers, but some of the guys they got them kind of stored, and they're not really using them like they should be. That's kind of my opinion on it.
Okay, well that's kind of what I figured. It's a problem of missing some pieces.
Yeah, they are.
And because of that, he is trying to put more on himself.
He definitely is.
And when you're missing those pieces, putting more on yourself doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
He's not gonna. We know he's not gonna be running the read option there in New Orleans.
No, but you know, I think they gotta have to. They gotta. It kind of the same complaint that Scott has with the Atlanta defense. To a point, putting the right players in the right places and things like that. I don't think Payton has quite done that with the offense in a sense either. I mean, I see, like I said, in my head when I first started the season, I saw more or less Cooks, Morgan, possibly on one side, because I figured those 2 guys can stretch the defense a little bit more because of their speed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Cooks you could do a lot of different things with, and I think Morgan was great at stretching the speed. You had Toon in there. I think Toon could have been the guy, eventually a good replacement for Colston in a sense. Right? But don't get me wrong, the fans think Toon should be gone. Me, I don't think he's had enough opportunity to prove himself.
Okay. You're talking about Mitch, who is Al Toon's son, right?
Yeah, Al Toon's son. Yep.
Former New York Jets.
And I used to watch his daddy play, and I liked Al. I liked Al Toon. Al Toon's a play, man.
Me too. I thought he was a player.
Yeah, he was a player. Concussions got him.
Yeah.
So, you know, unfortunately.
All right, we're going to move on to the Atlanta Falcons. Scott, I watched this game because the Panthers had a bye. So in my area here in Charleston, they showed the Falcons. I was thrilled.
I watched that one too.
I was thrilled to be able to watch this game because I knew what it meant for the Falcons. It was a real big opportunity for them to put a good stranglehold on the division lead. What happened?
Mike Smith happened.
Again.
Atlanta should be 6-5 right now. Because of clock management.
Agreed.
Clock management alone, Atlanta could have beaten Detroit. Atlanta could have beaten Cleveland.
No doubt.
Mike Smith doesn't call that timeout, and Cleveland calls a timeout like he said they were going to in his press conference right after the game. His exact comment was, if I didn't call the timeout, they were going to call it.
I know. Yeah, I know. And I heard that comment too, and I didn't know. I laughed. I actually laughed because I was like, he just so fired himself.
Right? Does he know what he just said?
He totally just fired himself.
He fired himself.
Like the only way I can see him earning his job back is Atlanta's got to win out and then still somehow make it back to the NFC title game. That's the only way he does that. But that means that he has to self-evaluate, magically install a pass rush. Like, there's a bunch of things that have to happen for him to win out and add some luck into all of that. Like, he's not. The Falcons aren't winning out. Let's just be honest here. They're not winning out.
No.
They'll probably win 3 more games, but that's being optimistic and saying that they'll beat Carolina, New Orleans, and Pittsburgh. Like,
that is being, especially
that's being optimistic.
But don't get me wrong.
That being said, Mike Smith had no reason. A minute left in Detroit, like a minute 5. Detroit has no timeouts left.
Yep.
You're punting the ball away anyway.
That was actually
He didn't have any timeouts left
right?
either. Well, the thing is, he didn't have any timeouts left either. But who cares? At that point, there's a minute and 5 seconds left.
Yep.
That was
Run the ball. Take 5 seconds off that way. Let the 40 seconds run off. You're at 20 seconds. The punt itself takes 11 seconds. So then you're at 9 seconds for them to go 80 yards. It's tough to do. Without a timeout, it's extremely tough.
Well,
That's a win.
they might have
That's
had
a win if Mike Smith just calls a running play.
they might have had a little more than 9 seconds, maybe 12, but still 12
Maybe
seconds.
12. It's still, you can't really go down the field,
Yes,
get
that's
in the field
hard.
goal range,
That's
and
hard.
kick a field goal for the win with that much time on the clock.
Right, that's tough.
Then you've got this Cleveland game, 55 seconds on the clock. You call a timeout. Matt Bryant hasn't really missed a field goal all year. What do you call? You call a timeout. Why? I have no idea. What you do is you let you run the clock out. If they don't call a timeout, that's Mike Pattine's stupid clock management.
Yes.
Let Mike Pattine take the blame for clock management.
You don't help them.
So they'll let the clock run down to about 30. You call a timeout. You call a run play to the left. If it works and you gain 5-6 yards, that's fine. You force them to use their timeouts. You down the ball a couple times, or you kind of just like run interior runs a couple of times and chip away, get even closer for Matt Bryant. Then you call your timeout with 4 or 5 seconds left. Let Matt Bryant just pop one through real quick. If they get the ball back, it's on a kickoff with 1 second left to a kickoff unit that hasn't allowed a kickoff return touchdown in almost 3 years.
Their kicker kicks it out of the end zone every time.
Yeah, because he either kicks it out of the end zone or he kicks it so high that they catch it at the 2, and then they go, oh crap, there's 8 guys around me, and they get to about the 8. That's how good Matt Bosher is as a kickoff.
He is.
Specialist.
I tell you,
a ton of money.
I did watch that game, and one thing I tweeted out, and I tweeted it out at halftime, was that running a 2-minute drill is dead. The art of it is dead. Cleveland was horrible at the halftime on that running that drill. They were terrible. I'm sitting there like, they had no idea when to call a timeout or anything, and it was just brutal.
When they kicked that field goal and Devin Hester, man, that was almost
I know that was
top 10 play.
That was
if Desmond Southward turns around.
Yep.
And sees, oh crap, Joel Bitonio's out there. Let me at least just kind of block him a little bit.
Yeah,
Hester cuts back and then boom, that's a touchdown. Because no one else but Bitonio was anywhere close.
Because I'm sitting there going like, no. When you got back to the 30-yard, I was like, no. I'm sitting there screaming. I was like, no. Lord, thank you. I was like, you can't run that back. But I mean, that was a hell of a play. And what's even worse was that they got suckered by it because he sat there and kind of like did that little stutter, that little walk, and then just took off. And I'm like, how you get fooled by that? I would have nailed his ass right then and there the minute he caught it.
Exactly.
Scott, what I was going to say.
I would have took the penalty on that one. I would have took the penalty on that, and if he had called fair catch or whatever. I would have just took a penalty, but I would have cleaned this clock on that one.
Scott, what I was gonna say was Brian Hoyer gifted your secondary with
Several times.
three
I don't think
interceptions.
he gifted because one of those interceptions was a ridiculous play.
Yeah,
Devin had
In the end zone, that was an awesome
good play.
That was a ridiculous catch. And then the
Yes.
Desmond Southward play was just a great read because he cut the ball off before it could get to Josh Gordon on a play.
But
Both of those plays are like, we know it's going to Josh Gordon. We know it's going here. So
Who
they just
looked like he wasn't
got
giving
it.
any effort on either of those two plays. His effort that he put forth to make a play on those balls was poor.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think he was tired more than anything else.
You think so?
But two attempts to Josh Gordon got picked off, where I think the other attempt was like an underneath route that they were trying to get to Gary Barnage, which, come on, let's be honest here. Are you really going to complete a pass to Gary Barnage more than like twice a game? No.
Yeah, but
You're a Carolina fan. You
like crap. Let me tell you something.
He was our blocking tight end.
He threw like crap. I mean, don't get me wrong, because I thought that Hoyer threw like crap in that game because he had Gordon open a few times that he was throwing to him, and he was throwing way the hell over here, and Gordon was over here, and that was just horrid. I mean, like I'm sitting there and I even tweeted that. I was like, is it me or is Brian Hoyer throwing like crap today?
Oh, he was throwing like crap.
It was the incompletion.
But Desmond Trufant had probably one of his best games as a pro this past week. Not even gonna lie. I mean, he just looked excellent this past week. I have not seen Trufant look this good in a long time. And I'm a huge Trufant fan, but he just looked so much better this week than I've seen him play. Going against Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, if he can just shadow the number one every week, this will be great.
Yeah, but but see, part of that was, I think, Gordon Russ, and part of that was definitely Hoyer inaccuracy too, because I mean, you know what I mean, that kind of helped a little bit, in my opinion.
Inaccuracy helped a little bit, but even on that first attempt to Gordon,
that was a good play. I'm not saying Trufant didn't make some plays. He did.
It was like that all game.
But it was a couple times that Hoyer was just way off on some of those passes. You know what I mean? You know.
I mean, I don't disagree. But Hoyer also sucks.
Huh?
I wanted to ask Scott about that run on the touchdown by, I think it was Isaiah Crowell.
He had a couple of nice runs there.
Yeah, he had a nice run to the corner of the end zone where he sort of stumbled, caught his balance, put a hand down and caught his balance and beat somebody to the corner. Do you remember the run I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The one where he scored like a 26-yard touchdown.
Yeah, it was 26. Yeah, it was like 26 yards. Yeah. What happened on that play with the defense? Did they just over pursue?
Yeah, basically, you have a bunch of guys. Atlanta's starting defense is a bunch of old guys on the line, and then a bunch of second and first year players at the second and third levels. So while you've got like Paul Soliai and Tyson Jackson and Corey Bierman and Jonathan Babineau as like your main starting linemen, the second level, Warlow, Shembo, and Bartu are your main linebackers. 2 second-year guys and a rookie. Alford, McLean, Trufant, Ishmael, that's your secondary, most of your secondary. All of them, second-year guys or rookies, or McLean, who's like a fourth-year pro, but he was a seventh rounder for a reason. And then you've got Dwight Lowery, who was a street free agent. And then on that play, you had everyone's favorite player on the field, Rashid Hageman, who and then wide open gap, because he shot the gap. He did a great job. He shot the gap, and then he missed the tackle in the backfield. And then from then on, that entire play was dead.
You
And
mentioned
the weird pitch play they run.
you mentioned Wardlow, and I watched him a lot because I knew you spoke of him in the past. He kind of reminded me of a poor man's Luke Kuechly, if you would, the way he's kind of all over the field making plays.
See, I said that last year, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? He's probably closer to like a regular man's Keith Brooking than a poor man's Luke Kuechly.
Okay, okay, that might be a better comparison, actually. That
Oh,
might
and I'm like, he's not as good in coverage as Kuechly is. He's gotten a lot better the last 3 weeks, not going to lie. But he's not as good in coverage. He's a much better blitzer, and Brooking was always a better blitzer than coverage guy. And then he's just a run stopper. Like,
Good player.
Yeah, he gets to the ball. He's got a nose for the ball.
That's basically it. Like, Brooking's a good football player, and I think Paul Warlow's the same kind of guy. But in the locker room, they're two completely different personalities.
That's for sure.
Brooking was that, like, hey, I'm going to sit back and just do me, and I'm going to lead by example. Warlow, voted team captain. He's not a lead by example kind of guy. He's a I'm going to get up in your face if you fuck up kind of guy. So.
Well, it was amazing to me that after the way they played, Cleveland was able to come back and win that game on that late field goal. I couldn't believe it. Atlanta
I was kind of expecting Clear to pick.
Really?
And that kind of goes back to what I was saying. You have to go out and play the games. You just never know who's going to do it.
Right.
Well, I thought Atlanta was going to lose that game when I looked at it on the schedule. And the fact that they almost won it, I was like, man, I don't know how that one happened. Like, they should have won. Atlanta should be 6-5 right now.
I agree, 100%. I agree. Atlanta should have won that game.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah, they had more than enough opportunities, and they just let it kind of get away
Oh,
from them.
Tony just said, stop letting me get away with the true font mess. Gordon didn't play a year. Gordon's biggest plays were against soft zone coverage. But what do I know, Tony? I watched the game.
Tony's got to call and give you some grief, Scott. It wouldn't be southbound and down if he did.
So you want to know how Trufant really covered him? Man to man, because I tracked this. Man to man, Trufant covered him on 7 targets. 2 of them were completed. One was an 11-yard catch. The other was a 9-yard catch. The other target that was completed against him-ish was in a matchup zone where Trufant played cover 3, and it was a 17-yard catch. Trust me, Trufant did not have a bad game going up against Josh Gordon. 5 incompletions, 3 catches on 8 targets towards Trufant's way, and then a 17-yard long and an interception. Gordon may have eaten up the Falcons, but he didn't eat up. Gordon may have eaten up the Falcons, but he didn't eat up Trufant. He had a lot of gains in zone coverage.
Yeah.
Or a lot of screens.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the wide receiver screens.
The wide receiver screen that went for 24 yards had Desmond Southward manned up against him, so of course he's gonna eat him up. He had Corey Bierman on him for another screen for 22 yards.
Yeah.
Speaking,
When you put Corey Bierman on Josh Gordon, you're gonna have a bad time. When you put Corey Bierman on Jimmy Graham, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
Again, Tony, it's not all about, hey, this guy had a great game because he went against Desmond Trufant. Trufant played him probably the best out of any corner has ever played. Yeah, he may have had a year off. But Trufant, I've never seen a corner go up against Josh Gordon and look as good as Trufant did.
I think he played well. I think he did play well. I wanted to mention, you said Corey Bierman. I thought he played well in the game overall.
He made a play here and there, yeah.
When I go back and I watch the All-22, like up live, he doesn't look as bad. And then, oh, now he's spouting out at his butt.
He might be
But
under.
this is Tony we're talking
He
about.
might be under the influence too, so bear that in mind.
Might?
Yeah, maybe.
Might? Alright, yeah.
You were saying you were watching all 22.
Yeah, when I watched the All-22 with Bierman, you just see the worst run fits. Like, it's aggravating watching him go up against a competent tackle. Not even a good tackle, like a competent one. Will destroy him in the run game. For all but like 3 plays in a game. And those 3 plays he gets are like magical tackles for loss. But the rest of the game, he's on his butt or he's getting destroyed. And you're like, yep, Craig Bierman, there you go. And those magical 3 run plays he gets, they line him up a little bit wider. He goes up against the tight end and he makes a play. You would think that these coaches who watch this film every single week would notice this by now and say, you know what? Maybe we should put Bierman as kind of a linebacker instead of as a defensive end. He might fit a little bit better that way. His pass rushing's better when he gets to go a little bit wider than where he's at. So maybe he should play strong outside linebacker in a 34 style with someone playing a 5 technique eating up the tackle. But what do I know? I'm no NFL coach.
Right. You're not Mike Smith.
It's okay. Mike Smith might be fired, so it's a win-win.
So that
I thought he would build his fate against in Detroit, but boy, he really he put a lock on it in Cleveland.
I like him because I like to watch him and his wife on that TV show with theirs. Don't be tardy to the party or whatever it's called. I enjoy it. What can I say? I'll admit it. I
She
enjoy
outkicked her coverage. I'm gonna put it that way. She way outkicked her coverage.
Oh yeah, you think?
Oh yeah, he carried down like crazy.
All right, so we're going to look ahead to next week. I'll start it off because I haven't talked about the Panthers at all. Panthers are coming off a bye week. We've had a chance to hopefully get some guys rested and taking care of some minor dings. It looks like we're going to be starting Amini Silatulo at right tackle this week, who played some tackle in college. I think he was a left tackle in college, but he's going to be moved to the right side this week is what it looks like. So that's going to be interesting. Can't be any worse than what we've played this far. It can't be any worse than Chandler. You know what I mean? So we're going to Minnesota. We get a matchup against former Carolina Panther Captain Munderland. In the paper this week, Josh Norman, who I think has been the Panthers' best player in their secondary so far this season, he he was commenting to Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer and talking about how Captain Munderland refused to help or to sort of mentor Norman when he came in for fear of losing his starting position.
Captain Munderland's an idiot because he should have mentored Josh Norman because Munderland was never a number 1 corner.
Right.
Giannis was a number 2. But he was a solid number 2 when he had a number 1.
Right.
If he mentors Josh Norman, it might just work.
Right, but from what I understand, people tweeted because we mentioned some, as you saw, it was being tweeted and bounced around. Some people who were familiar with Captain at South Carolina said he was the same way there, that he wasn't into helping freshmen and the underclassmen. He was really more worried about himself and making sure he got playing time.
But generally, a lot of times that shortens your career because you usually don't stay there very long if you're not helping out either a little bit and trying to teach these guys.
Right.
You don't want to win either if you don't try to get those guys on the right page.
Thing is, I don't remember him being that good at South Carolina.
Me
No,
neither, to tell you the truth. I mean, I
no.
know he was popular with the fans because I think more than
His
anything
name was
because of his
Captain.
name. Yeah,
Yeah,
because of his
Captain.
name.
But they were thinking
That's it.
Captain Morgan, not Monola.
Well, they were probably drinking too much, Captain Morgan, and not watching
You've
enough
never been to
Captain Morgan.
Columbia?
I see you on
Let's put it this way.
the.
Let's put it this way. Let's say this. Guys. You have got to go to Columbia for a football game.
Yeah, man.
I'm just going to say the scenery, probably the best in the South.
I've been to. I went there for the pro day this past year. I'd never been there before, and the place it's amazing. It's an incredible football stadium for being a college stadium.
That's not exactly what I meant by scenery, but
Yeah,
I know. I
exactly.
know what you meant. I know what you
He
meant.
was, he
I
was
know.
talking about something a little more rambunctious.
I was
Right.
just talking about the beautiful women of Columbia.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
the things in short skirts.
Exactly.
So anyway, getting back to the
And
Panthers
booty
this week.
shorts.
They are playing outdoors. The game is scheduled to be, or temperature at game time is scheduled to be around somewhere between 13 to 16 degrees, which will be the second coldest game the Panthers have ever played in. The first one was in '97. The coldest one was in '97, Green Bay, where the temperature was 6 degrees. So I think that is going to play a factor in the game, and honestly, I think that's going to
You
give
think?
the Vikings a bit of an edge. Um, I do see the Panthers winning this game, though, kind of in an ugly sort of. It's going to be an ugly game, I think, just because of the weather. I think they're going to run the ball a little more this week because of the weather, and it'll be kind of low scoring. So I see them winning like 16-13, 17-10, that kind of thing. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they regroup after coming off this bye week. Hopefully, they've got their stuff together and they're ready to make a run to the playoffs. What are your thoughts on the Panthers Vikings, Scott?
You're probably going to hate my response here,
I'm
but
not surprised.
I think the Vikings end up winning just because the game is in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be this blowout either way.
No.
And I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair because both offenses have been stalling out quite often. Probably like a 17-13 kind of game. And I've got it for Minnesota.
Okay. I mean, I respect that. I respectfully disagree with that.
As you always do.
I always do. Greg, your thoughts on Carolina at Minnesota?
I'm with Scott that it is going to probably be a low scoring affair. Both offenses are struggling a little bit. We definitely know what's going on with Carolina. But I think Minnesota. I think Minnesota can pull this game out. It is home field advantage. And if it's going to be 13 to 16 degrees in that game, it's going to take you guys a half just to even get adjusted to the fact trying to feel if you got any body parts.
Right.
And I've lived in Minnesota. I promise you, 13 to 16 degrees, that's a son of a bitch. I mean, that's brutal. And that's not even worse. That's not even as bad as it can get, and we know that. But, I mean, I think home field advantage, and I think it's going to be close. I'm with him. I think it's going to be closer to 14-10. Something like 14-10 is kind of where it's going to be at.
Okay.
Only thing that might save either one of you to win that game is a major turnover. Something like that might be the difference. Or somebody makes one hell of a special teams play or something like that.
Right.
That might be your difference.
Okay. I respectfully disagree with you, Greg. All right, Gene, I want to know your thoughts on this Panthers-Vikings game.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with those guys because I think Cam Newton, they're going to jump out and get an early lead, and they end up coasting 17-10. But I do believe that the running game will play a factor in this because passing a ball in that kind of weather is like throwing a brick. So, I honestly believe that the running game will be a factor on both ends, and I think that I would give that advantage over to Carolina.
All right. Well, I totally agree with your assessment. Respectfully. And then that being said, we'll move on to the Falcons. Who do the Falcons have this week?
They get Arizona, and this may be a shock for y'all, but I'm gonna pick against Atlanta this week.
I'm sorry. I don't think I heard that right. Say that again.
No, I'm not saying it's gonna be a blowout, just because I don't think Drew Stanton can lead that offense to a blowout. Because the 3 weeks Drew Stanton has led the offense, they've scored right around 20 points. But I think a solid 24-17 kind of game that Atlanta loses, that makes a lot of sense.
It's in Arizona?
It's in Atlanta. The only way Atlanta wins is if a Devin Hester return goes back for a touchdown, you get 4 picks, and Matt Ryan goes off for 500 yards on a defense that he's never gone off for 500 yards against. And Matt Ryan doesn't throw any picks, and somehow the offensive line doesn't allow any hits or sacks, and somehow Steven Jackson runs for 100 yards. Atlanta has to play pretty much a perfect game, and they'll win 27-24. But Atlanta's not going to play a perfect game with Mike Smith coaching them. So I'm predicting them to lose by 7.
So it'll be a close game, you're saying. It's going to be close.
Only because it's Drew Stanton and not Carson Palmer. If it was Carson Palmer, I'd say it'd be 41-17.
Let me flip it around. Let me flip it around on you and ask you. You see the Falcons having that much success against the Cardinals' defense?
Yeah, I mean it's called garbage time.
but
it's gonna be 24-10 going into the fourth quarter. And then Atlanta's going to get a touchdown and, give people hope. And then they're just going to let us down one last time right at the end of the game with, a Steven Jackson fumble on the goal line. That's the Atlanta Falcons this year.
All right. So you don't see them matching up well with Patrick Peterson and the secondary that they have there along with that defense. It's just a defense overall, the front 7, until they have a nice lead and they start pulling the starters. Nice.
Until they basically say, you know what, let's drop into prevent with 3 minutes left. That's when I see the first touchdown getting scored, the first real touchdown.
I got you.
Getting scored. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a very honest opinion. Like I said earlier, you guys are great at giving honest opinions. Me, not so much. But I can see what you're saying. And the Cardinals came off a loss last week, right? They're coming off a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a loss in Seattle to a really good Seattle team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough loss, but it's come on, man, it's in Seattle.
They've split, they've split with Seattle too.
Yeah, and they're gonna.
They won at home and then they lost on the road, which is what you would expect them to do.
I'm just saying they're gonna want to get back on the right track.
Yeah.
That's it. They're just going to want to get back on the right track. What do you think, Greg? What do you think of the Falcons-Cardinals matchup, the Battle of the Bird?
I think Arizona wins. I do think Arizona wins the game. But I think the key is the turnover, because if Arizona makes 1 or 2 too many mistakes, a couple mistakes there, Atlanta has a good shot at possibly winning the game. Unless you put the clock in Mike Smith's hand, and then that's the that's it.
Speaking of turnovers, Scott, Ishmael, doesn't he have 3 interceptions in the last 3 weeks?
In the last 3 games, yeah, he does.
Yeah, because you know what they're doing? They're playing him in a role that really fits his strengths. He's playing that intermediate zone 90% of the time, and then if he's not doing that, he's blitzing, and if he's not doing that, he's stuffing the run. Kamal Ishmael has been very impressive. For a guy who was drafted with a compensatory 7th-round pick last year, you wouldn't be able to guess that.
Wow.
Like, he's just been falling out of control. Him and Trufant and Warlow were all picks last year, and they were all either picks or undrafted free agents. That's going to be the core of the defense moving forward.
Well, maybe he can make some plays for you and keep the game, make it tight.
Well, I hope so.
Maybe.
And we do get one more back, so that might be helpful.
So Greg, what do you see the score being there in Atlanta?
I'm gonna go 24. I'm gonna go 24-14, Arizona, because I mean, it's like I'm like if it was Carson Palmer, I think that they would score a heck of a lot more. With Drew Stanton, I think the defense is going to help him out a lot. As long as the defense is helping him out, he'll be fine. Now, if that defense start faltering or anything like that, or get a little worn down, and it's got to go in Stan's hands, I don't trust that one.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think 24-14 would be about a fair enough score.
Okay. Gene, what about you in this battle at the Bird Bath?
All right. Because I live in Arizona, I've gotten to really see a lot more of Bruce Arians and what the defense can do. I think they're very underrated this season. I think that Bruce Arians will be the coach of the year. I look at what he did with the Colts before he came to Arizona, and he makes the most out of what he has. So I honestly believe that this will be I would say maybe 24-14. I think that Atlanta will score some points, and I think it'll be a closer game than what people are saying.
Okay. So you're tending to agree with what everyone else has said, and I will too. I will say that I think Arizona's defense is a bit underrated. They've got some talent on that defensive side of the ball, and I think it's going to pose more of a problem for the Falcons than what they're anticipating. So I see this score being a little bit more lopsided than what you guys have. I think we're looking at like 28-10 is kind of what I'm seeing. But we'll see. I really do like Arians and the job that he's done there. He's just a heck of a coach, man. He is a heck of a coach.
Yeah, you think about the fact that when Pittsburgh got rid of him, and just all those, I don't know. I mean, he definitely proven that, he should have been given the job a long time ago. And I like Mark Trestman. I think he's a lot better coach than what people give him credit for. To me personally, that's my feelings about Trestman. But I mean, I'm pretty sure Chicago kicking themselves in the nuts about not hiring Arians.
Yeah.
They had a shot and they were going to hire him, and they picked Trestman over him. So I can imagine. I can imagine them feeling a little regret on that one.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sure they are.
Might have been the guy that Jake Cutler needed.
Well, Greg, now that we're on you, let's see what the Saints have this week. Who are the Saints matching up with this week?
Oh, whoa, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh in freezing cold.
Okay.
Well, let's say it like this. Don't get me wrong, Jerry. I'm gonna always root for my Saints. I'm still gonna root for them, but in all honesty, I'm not expecting them to win this game. I'm not. I can't. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I know we've been a brutal team all year, especially on defense, and that's one of our biggest downfalls more than anything. But I just think with the Pittsburgh game, the fact that they got to go on the road in a freezing cold weather against them, if they play Pittsburgh in September, I'm probably a little more. I'm a little more optimistic than I am playing them now. I mean, because I know right now it's snowing out that way at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not even a good recipe for anything. Especially when you got a team that's already kind of rough on the road as it is.
Yeah, you said
it. And so I look at Saints. I still think it's going to be relatively kind of a close game because I think they can kind of hang with them. I just don't think right now they're not finishing games. That's the really biggest problem right now. They just haven't been able to finish a damn thing right now. And this game right here, I think is just going to be another long run in that. I think the score's going to be somewhere. I'm going to go 27-24. Probably Pittsburgh is where I'm looking at.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a pretty tight game.
You think
You
that
know,
makes points, huh? You're
I think so.
talking 51 points?
Yeah. I mean, because I mean, Pittsburgh defense is still not the same steel curtain that we're used to seeing or that we've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I think New Orleans can still score on it. But like I said, it's the fact that they're having the hardest time finishing games
And getting to the quarterback. They haven't been able to do that well.
Exactly right, and I think they're gonna get a heavy dose of Le'Veon Bell is what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right up that middle, especially with Broderick Bonkley now out for the year, and John Jenkins did not instill any kind of comfort. And I like Jenkins, but he didn't instill any kind of comfort that he can hold that middle like he should be able to. And so that if he can't, Le'Veon Bell is just going to be 22 here all day. If Justin Forsett can get 182, Le'Veon Bell can get a hell of a lot, and he's a heck of a lot better back.
Yeah, he is, and if they get him going, that opens up the play action pass.
And then you get in trouble. Just in a lot of trouble.
Got some talent at the receiver position, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the best bet is that they screw up somewhere. That they throw up, that they screw up, and that you're there to take advantage of it. That's even, it's one thing to fumble and don't recover the fumble.
Right.
Let's see. Kick it in the end zone and recover it.
Let's see what Gene has to say about the Saints-Pittsburgh matchup.
I'm picking the Saints in an upset, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah, upset special. I've actually picked it on my list at work of my upset specials. I think that Pittsburgh has played some games where they've put up Madden-like numbers, and I really do believe that the Saints are going to come in and steal one. And it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a 17-14 game, but I think the Saints are going to come in and steal one.
I mean, it's going to be on Pittsburgh making mistakes. It's hard for me to count on it. That's one of the reasons why I didn't pick them at this point.
Right, turnovers. And that's where I'm going to go with this. I think the Steelers win. They're at home. I'm sure the weather's not going to be great. I don't know that it's going to be 13 degrees, but that part of Pennsylvania gets pretty cold.
It gets cold.
Yeah.
It gets cold.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's gonna work for the Steelers, and I see this game being somewhere in the neighborhood of 28-20, 28-21, something like that. Scott, what about you? What do you think? Pittsburgh hosting Saints.
Oh, I'm just going with that Pittsburgh. They're 4-1 at home this year. They've scored 43, 51, 30, and then they had the weird, or 30 again, and then that weird anomaly against Tampa Bay where they scored 24.
Look at this guy.
Which I'm just looking at the games, and I'm like, you know what? What happened in that Tampa Bay game that's so different? And I'm like, I don't really know. It's not the turnovers.
Pittsburgh gave that game away. Pittsburgh absolutely.
And then I look at the injuries. And that Pittsburgh defense lost a lot of guys during that Tampa Bay game.
Yeah.
And that basically was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the issue. Pittsburgh's coming off their bye. They're a little bit healthier. They're playing at home.
It's like the third.
I would see this as like a Baltimore type statement or an Indy type statement where they, I think Baltimore's a way better team than the Saints. I think Indy's a way better team than the Saints. I think both of them match. I think the Steelers match up better with the Saints than they have with those two teams. I could see this being a blowout. That being said, I don't ever predict blowouts. If I had to pick right now, I'm saying 31-24. that Steelers defense allows about 24, 25 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a couple scores on them. You're going to get 24, 25 points no matter what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not worried about you guys scoring. I'm worried about what the Steelers are going to do.
Right.
We have a Saints defense has looked the last 3 weeks.
Stop them.
I can see them giving up 45.
Yeah. Well,
I can see the Saints giving up 45. That being said, I don't ever predict that.
Right.
So I'm going to say 31-24. Steelers win.
Yeah.
Which I'm still just saying I think that it's probably going to be more than that.
Yeah.
The Saints team just hasn't been what it could be.
No, it's not. It hasn't. I mean, and another thing too with this schedule, this is like the 3rd team in a row that they've played. I think Cincinnati, Baltimore, and now Pittsburgh. Every last one of them come off a bye. Every last one of them had like 10 days rest.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they play the Saints. And because Baltimore just came off 10 days rest. I think Cincinnati had just had a bye. I think it was like 3. It's been like 3-4 teams. All of them had byes right before they played the Saints. You know, this is where you start thinking about like what the hell good whoever's scared making the
You know, I just I said just, but about 15 minutes ago, Tony tweeted and said I was only able to peek in for a moment. Tell the fellows I said what's up, and that Mike Smith is fugazi.
That's from the. I sent him a clip of one of my favorite wrestlers right now, who's not even on like the big show. He's on the actual like the developmental show, and it's why I'm wearing this shirt right now, because it fits the division. He kind of leads in, he goes to the ring, and then he calls his opponent soft, and he spells it out, S-A-W-F-T, soft. Because that's what he does. And that's why I'm wearing this shirt.
Nice.
This division is soft. They have been soft all year long.
Yes,
and until the playoffs, I have a feeling people are going to go, man, this division is the worst in football and the worst in football history. And then they're going to somehow, no matter who makes it to the playoffs,
pull off a win.
Right now, they're going to win that playoff game.
I gotta feel. I'm with you. And Scott, I've been thinking the same thing. I'm like,
no matter who it is, whether it could be the Bucks, and they're gonna blow someone out in the playoffs. It's gonna make no sense because it's football in 2014.
I was thinking the same thing. I've been thinking the same thing all the time. It's like, it's funny because I said, well, it's gonna be funny as hell. One of these teams gonna sputter in there like 6-10. Everybody in the planet gonna pick against them, and then they gonna come in there and they're just gonna bust a cap in somebody's ass and just like run them out the building.
Well, think about this. Think about how hilarious this would be. The NFC South team's number 4 seed, right?
Yep.
A number 6 seed comes in, like say Seattle. All right. Say Seattle's a 6 seed. Seattle wins their first game. Seattle wins their second game. They're going to the NFC title game. All right, say you got this NFC South team. They magically win 2 games. An NFC South team at 6-10 could mathematically host the NFC title game.
Yes, they could.
That should be the story that people were pissed off about.
But see, everybody,
it's mathematically possible.
But that's the rule. Hold
on. Greg, you and I both know, because our teams have been screwed by this multiple times.
Hell yeah.
Atlanta was 11-5, and they had to travel to a 9-7 Cardinals team.
Yeah, I remember.
Then the Saints were 11-5 and had to travel to a 7-9.
I know, and let me tell you, that loss still counts my high to this day. I am still
2011. Oh, I know. 2011, the 10-6 Atlanta Falcons had to travel to a 9-7 New York Giants team, and because it was 21 degrees at the stadium, the receivers kept dropping balls.
Yep.
When that game's played in Atlanta, they destroy the Giants.
Yeah, but
that 11 team, which was
that went,
nasty.
and they were in MetLife, I think. Weren't they still in MetLife? Or no, they were in
Yeah,
Old
it
Giants
was
Stadium.
the old Giant
It
Stadium,
was Old
which has
Giants
the
Stadium.
bridges
Meadowlands.
that
And
went
the wind
through
is
it,
crazy in
and
that
you're just
stadium
like,
too. Yeah, that wind is crazy in that stadium.
yeah. So I'm sitting here going, man, that 2011 team was so much better because the defense was good. They had some pass rushers. Corey Bierman looked competent. Like, just as a whole, that team looked so much better than other teams. I think that 11 team might have been a better overall team than the 10 or the 12 team, but because they had to go on the road, they got screwed.
Well, see, I mean, New Orleans going into that Seattle game, I can remember New Orleans didn't even really have running backs. They had Reggie Bush and they had a couple guys off the street, literally a couple guys off the street. Pierre Thomas was hurt. Darren Sproles was not on that team. He was still in San Diego. I think who else? A bunch of other guys. Mike Bell, he was out for the year. I think out for the year. And it was just like they had no running backs coming to the game against Seattle, so they couldn't get a run game, and it just Seattle caught them at the right time. And I got a feeling, like I said, kind of like the same thing what Scott said. One of those teams is going to come in New Orleans or Atlanta or Carolina or Tampa. They may be at a weakest point. You might catch them at the right time, and you might end up getting them. And the truth of the matter is this: as much as I hate all three of your damn teams, I'm actually probably going to cheer for you to win that damn game.
Right. I
At
agree.
least that one.
I
You know what I
agree.
mean?
Yeah.
Just to prove a point.
Just to represent the South.
Huh?
Just to represent the NFC South. Yeah.
Because we getting pissed on all year,
Yes.
and we won't. So and deservedly so. But at the same time, every once in a while, the dog got to bite back.
Right.
That's right.
You
We
get
know a
kind
lot
of tired
better.
of being R. Kelly'd.
Huh?
You get kind of tired of being R. Kelly'd.
Yeah. Well, you mean R. Kelly's victim?
That's what I'm saying. You're the one
We
getting
kiss
R.
you, not to
Kelly.
kiss her.
No. You get what I'm saying, though.
I do. I got you.
All right. So let's move on from fascination with the Yellow River. And,
There's no fascination, buddy.
There's no fascination. It's just this is the remix edition of the song.
let's get to Gene. And Gene, Tampa Bay is hosting or on the road this week?
They are. They're on the road.
Are they
Okay.
on the road?
I thought they were going to be home for sure. They played so many home games this year already. I tell you.
Oh, that's right. They are on the road, aren't they?
Where are they at?
They're playing against Cincinnati. That's a 1 o'clock game.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, I take that lie back. It is at Raymond James.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just talked to my friend who's a season ticket holder. She told me the game was here.
Yeah. It is.
That's why I thought it was at home. She told me, and I know she'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they get a fun road trip. Detroit and Carolina.
So, what are your thoughts on the matchup with the Bengals?
Well, as I've said all week long with these quarterbacks, or all season, it just depends on which Andy Dalton's going to show up. I've seen Andy Dalton play flawless, and then other games where he just stinks up the place.
Mm-hmm.
They have a really good running back. What do they rank, like 7th in the league in the running game?
Jeremy Hill, I think his name is.
Yeah, I think so.
LSU, that kid can play. I love that kid.
Yeah, he is good, man.
Yeah, so it just depends on which Cincinnati Bengals team shows up. The Bucks will have to play discipline in order to stay in this game, stay in their gaps, and play in their assignments on defense in order to keep this thing going. I can hope and pray that McCown doesn't throw a lot of interceptions and he tries to at least try to manage the game competently.
We can hope.
So 2 interceptions. 2 is managing the game. 4 is just off the chain, and he's just terrible.
Yeah, and you just hope and pray that the offensive line gels a little bit to get us some holes to get these running backs and get our running game going. Doug Martin looked like he was running in reverse last week, so I don't know, man.
Kind of was.
Joe, Green,
Hold on.
AJ Green last week had quite a day. I think he had his personal best for receptions in a game. So it seems that now that he's back, him and Dalton are sort of, getting that chemistry together again.
Mhm.
So
I got a
that's something to be concerned with. What do you got, Scott?
I got a fun little statement. Let's look at things on a positive note. 4 of the top 5 leading tacklers are from the NFC South, and they're all 4 from 4 different teams.
Hmm.
Luke Kuechly and Levante David, Paul Warlow, and then the guy who Atlanta let go, and Curtis Lofton. Those are
Yeah,
your top
Hmm.
4.
Lofton's been the most solid player on our defense. That's the only player right there that I have no problem with.
Lofton is solid but unspectacular, and he
I
can't
agree.
cover
Like,
worth
no
a
doubt.
lick. And that's why he's not in Atlanta, is because he can't really cover. But
Right.
other than
I'm with
that, I'm a Curtis Lofton fan. I like Curtis Lofton. I
Yeah,
would love to see Curtis Lofton back in Atlanta right now next to Paul Warlow.
because I mean, don't get me wrong, his shortcomings that he can't cover. But the one thing about it, he can play, and he leads the defense, and I mean, he out there, he plays, he does what he can do.
All
He
right.
can
Well,
play and he can do it.
we are talking about the Bucks and the Bengals. Um, Levante David being a top tackler is no surprise to me. I love the kid. I thought he was going to be a great NFL player coming out of college, and he has proven that. What are your thoughts on the score of the game, Gene?
If the front 4 can get pressure on the quarterback, I think that's going to help our secondary a lot. Um, I don't know. I'm thinking that Cincinnati wins this one, uh, 28, 21.
Oh, so you think it's a close game? One-score
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
Okay. All
I,
right.
I'm with Gene on that one. I think it's going to be a closer game. I do think the Bengals win. Um, I'm picking 24-23, 24-21 Bengals.
Wow, that's real close, Scott.
Well, because the Bengals have been unimpressive. They beat Atlanta, but they were at home. It was early in the season, and they were 100% healthy. They're not anywhere close to 100% healthy right now. They've got some key issues with Vontez Perfect. They've got some issues with
Sanu,
Giovanni Bernard.
Sanu
So
is out.
without those two, oh, Geno Atkins is out too.
Uh,
Sanu,
Sanu.
Oh,
Muhammad
Sanu,
Sanu.
he's out. My bad. Yes, you got those 3. I mean, you've got some issues on that team with injuries. You take the injuries out, you might have a much better situation there
Hmm.
for the Bengals. But I don't see them destroying the Buccaneers right now.
No,
All right. Greg, your thoughts on the Bucks Bengals?
I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go 21-16, 21-16. Bengals in this game. I think the Bengals win it. I think. I mean, even with the injuries, I think they're just a little too much for the Bucks right now. I mean, I think they can run the ball very well. Right now, you still trying to find a running game. They got an offensive line, and like I said, depends. As long as a decent Andy Dalton shows up in the game, they'll be fine. If the bad Andy shows up where he starts throwing interceptions all over the damn place, now then we got an issue. Then the Bucks got a very good shot at winning that game. You
Yes.
know, you
Yes.
know, so they got a very good shot. But at the same time, I kind of think Cincinnati knows they're in a tight race. I think that I think the blinders on. They understand what they got. They got to win it.
Right.
They can't let these games slip out. So I mean, but the Bucks are in the same situation. The Bucks are still in this damn race, even at 2-9. They're still in this race. So
Can't even believe that. That's
I,
unbelievable to hear you say, man.
yeah, believe me, I stopped trying to roll in my. I even stopped trying to make sense of all of this. At this point, all I know is just this is where we are. You just got to make the damn best of it.
Well,
That's a
I know the Panthers played the Bengals back a few weeks ago, and that was the last time they didn't lose a game. They tied it. It
mm-hmm.
was a 37-37 tie,
Yeah.
and the Bengals played well in that game. I know they do have some injuries going on. But I think we're going to see good
Those things are
Andy Dalton. We're going to see probably a pretty good dose of the run game. And like I said, AJ Green is getting back into form, and him and the Red Rifle have that chemistry going. So I see this one being a little bit less competitive than you guys have it, and I have it the Bengals winning 27 and the Bucks 10.
so pretty much same scores as the New Orleans game.
There you go. Yeah. I just think the Bengals, like you said, they got their blinders on, their focus, and they know what they have to do to
I mean,
keep
every team in that
keep it
division
up.
is 7-4. Every
Right.
team, they can't afford to slip.
Right. Anybody loses, it's going to be tough for them to make it up
Yeah, they're gonna have a
in
hard
that
time trying to
division.
catch up or trying to
Yeah.
get back in
In
there.
that division.
Yeah, the first one that loses is pretty much out.
Yeah.
They just call it a day. They
Yeah.
really.
Um, Greg, I wanted to ask you real quick because the Saints have had such tremendous home field advantage.
Mm-hmm.
How do these three losses, consecutive home losses, strike you?
You played three really good teams. You also played three teams that were actually desperate. They had to win those games. They were just tight races as the Saints were. In that sense, when you really think about it, San Francisco needed to win that game, and they pulled it out. Cincinnati needed to win that game, or else, like I said, especially the same thing with Baltimore. They're all got the same record.
Right.
But I mean, also too, the fact that the Saints are not healthy. I mean, they're just not. I mean, based our secondary is in tatters. I mean, at this point, I mean, we got two guys that we started with, and you got a rookie, undrafted free agent as a free safety. As a free safety, started free safety right now. I like Pierre Warner because I mean he played very well in the preseason, and he even made a play against Baltimore where he got that fumble from him. And so Warren, I think, is a good addition to the team, but you kind of hate to have to put him like in this situation,
Right.
like where he high pressure. You come to playoffs and you can't really ease him in. He's got to come out there and play.
Right. Right.
And I mean, he knows he might ease in and do fine. I think he'll do okay.
So you don't think because of these three consecutive home losses, the mystique or the aura surrounding.
I don't think there was ever a mistake or aura. They just came out there and they had an energy. They played well and they beat the other team. I learned a long time ago there's really no such thing as a mystique or aura. It's just that the team went out there. They understood. That it was home field advantage. They come out there. They played well. But this team right here, if this team was 100% healthy or 90% healthy, let's say if they were even 90% healthy and they lost those three games, I'll be a lot more concerned than I would to the fact that we're basically running it right. Like I said, we got a defense that's really basically almost everybody's injured. I mean, not everybody. I mean, the whole secondary is kind of in shambles. The defensive line not playing very well. The linebackers are okay. You know what I mean? And you got a defense coordinator who's under a lot of pressure right now to try to,
You
in
said.
all honesty, try to keep. Because I mean, you could very well see him end up getting put out, getting cut.
At the end of the year.
Payton could very well do that.
Yeah.
If he does cut him, I kind of have in mind who I would like to see there. But also, I can make a case that they keep him and they try to just get the players that he needs for his defense
Right.
to give him an honest shot. Because a little bit of the sophomore slump is the second year. That's
Right.
my opinion. But I mean, like I said, the three losses and stuff like that, they don't really scare me. They don't bother me that much. Only because, like I said, I mean, we basically kind of went in not nearly full strength or as strong as we normally are, and the team is just off. And we're just a bad team right now. We're playing pretty bad ball. We've done that all year.
One of four bad teams in the NFC South.
Yeah. I mean, and so it just comes down to it. So I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna let that get in my head that that mystique or the aura, as people say, is gone as far as the home games. I mean, it's gonna those things in it eventually. Somebody's gonna beat you.
Right.
You don't know when, but
Right.
it definitely
It
happens.
doesn't go on forever.
No, it doesn't. So that's why it's hard to believe in mystique and aura. You just was on a streak. You was on a good ride when you were home.
Yeah, that's it. Well, guys, I want to say thank you for coming on. It's the night before Thanksgiving. I appreciate you taking almost 2 hours, guys. I appreciate you
Wow.
taking some time tonight to discuss how things went last week and kind of what to look forward to this week. I hope everyone has a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. Scott, you celebrate Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Okay.
American
I just didn't know. Um,
I'm an American, am I not?
yeah, I know. But anyway, um, enjoy, enjoy your turkey and dressing and all that stuff. Enjoy the football, guys, because there are some really good games on tomorrow too.
Yes, it are. Yes, they are.
That should be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But more than anything, just be safe. Okay, everybody be safe.
I'm gonna be home drinking and cooking. That's no.
Well, do one after you do the other.
I drink and cook simultaneously. Sorry.
Oh, as long as it's Coke or Pepsi, that's okay.
Spiked.
All right. Well, yes, I mean it. Have a very good Thanksgiving, guys. We appreciate it. It's Southbound and Down coming live every Wednesday night, 10 o'clock. It's our crew, the panel. We tell it like it is. May not always be what you want to hear, but we will tell it like it is. Guys, thanks again for coming on, and again, have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.